Hey, Spuds, how's it going? It's Jamie. Welcome back to another video of Fast Food on channel. I don't know, but welcome either way. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Rolly. Hello.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
How are you, girl?
We're speaking French today.
I am, yeah. Oh, la un stylo, la ordinateur.
Comment ça va? Je m'appelle... And that's Rolly's contribution.
I wonder if the system will clock that. Be like, oh, no, say.
But that was a good summary of what we're doing today.
Absolutely.
Because today we're looking at transphobic TikToks.
I'm looking at home videos.
I'm actually just looking at your private stash of videos.
Yeah, absolutely. My secret OnlyFans that I just show my feet.
I'll subscribe.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful, yeah.
I support you, Rolly.
Wiki feet is quaking. Anyway, hello. Thanks for having me back.
You're very welcome. This is Rolly, for anyone who doesn't know, although we've collabed so many times, I'd be surprised if people didn't know you.
Yeah, at this point, like, if you don't know me, die. The
Rolly's...
entire world population just like collapses. Entire ecosystems go under.
We're looking at transphobic, I say TikToks, but they're just short videos that are transphobic in nature.
Oh, okay, good. I think we've done memes and stuff. I don't think I've actually seen videos before.
I don't think so
either.
either.
It's the first for me.
I know.
Shaking my vagina challenge.
I've always wanted to.
Thank you, yes, thank you.
Later. I do apologise. We're starting with Piers Morgan.
This isn't very 4K.
It's very indeed not 4K. And I think you're going to be disappointed by the quality of most of them, both in terms of video quality and then also
and
what
the
they're
scum
saying.
inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Well, firstly, I mean, it was.
I'm serious. I'm serious. If I can identify as anything without any need to prove I'm actually what that is, why can't I, on International Women's Day, say I'm Piers Morgan?
I love how one of them is just laughing at him because what else can you do?
What I don't understand is like, if these people always say this kind of stuff, and it's not even necessarily like to do with trans stuff, they'll say being gay is a choice in a whole. I'm like, go and them. If you're choosing to not be aroused by men, prove that it's a choice. Go on.
But I said that. I was like, okay, so you are therefore actively choosing to be straight.
Yeah.
Just choose to, you don't have to act on it. Just choose to be gay for an afternoon and see how it feels. And oh wait, you can't?
You can't?
You can't?
You can't just openly get for things you're not turned on.
What a surprise.
Take those pills, get the Viagra pills, and no.
I think taking it to a kind of absurd status.
I think that's what.
About quite a
with
strong
respect, I think that
change.
you'd already opened the absurdity door by saying it is limitless. You can do what you like. Anyone can say, I'm a woman.
But the thing is with this, is it's like, they have to make these arguments because there's no other way that they can really combat anything to do with transgender people because this stuff just like doesn't happen. It's the same thing as Glinner ages ago was like, I was there to find men and found this man while he was doing the same thing. It's like, yes, the men that you're trying to find are yourself. So they say things like this. One, identify as a black lesbian. Yeah, but the thing is, you're making such absurd claims because it just doesn't happen. Like,
because he also wanted to be like a
people.
gender fluid penguin or something in another video.
Do it then. Get that fluid out your body. The fact that you need to make up these stories is showing that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and the fact that you compare like identifying as a different race or a different age that some people often do to being transgender, which is something that is scientifically and medically proven to exist.
Yeah. Well, it's ludicrous. It's because they don't have any actual argument, they have to make up arguments in order to justify their bigotry.
And then unfortunately, people who don't know anything are listening to Piers Morgan and going, they're saying he can't be a black lesbian, so how can people be a different gender? How can the transgenders exist then?
It's just like, so where I used to live in Wembley Park, we lived right next to that strictest school in the UK. So the headmistress is that insane woman who's on Twitter being like, well, I remember when kids were in litter trays in school. And that she's like totally balmy. After this, I'll send you her. But we lived next to like it was like the strictest school in the UK. And the head teacher is like a fully rampant TERF on Twitter.
Oh, jeez.
And it's like, how are you allowed to? Because I thought teachers and things aren't really allowed to be on social media that much anyway.
Yeah.
So to be a head teacher and then to be on like Twitter being like, oh, they're showing to children at 2 years old when they're gays and chopping off and stuff. And it was just like, what are you talking about, you insane woman?
It's so difficult because it's lying comes so easily to them. And then people believe it because they know nothing else but watching Piers Morgan on TV.
They truly feed into the ignorance of Keith and Karen, who lives in bumfuck nowhere, and they're like, what's a trans person?
Yeah.
Oh, it's those people that are black but also lesbians but also say they're men. Penguins and gender fluid 1-year-olds.
It's not that I'm sitting here going, I'm choosing to identify as a man. It's that I'm going like, I am a man. And I'm just born a little bit differently to cis man, and that's it. It's when we change that perception of how we view gender and identity and realise that our understanding in science and medicine has broadened, and therefore our understanding of people and how people people work has broadened and trans people are just a different category of being human.
It's interesting you say that because me and Shaba, in our video we filmed today, we talked about this medicine and history and how things have changed. Literally, they used to think that drilling a hole in your head would cure a headache. If you're going to talk about science and all that stuff, you keep thinking and talking as if like what we know now is the be-all and end-all of like existence, and it's like clearly not. We're not going to lobotomize people because they've got a migraine. We don't put people with autism in like mental asylums and chain them up and say like, oh, we're just going to like scientifically zap your brain. But that's what they used to do in history, and we know better now. And it's like, well, why can't you change your opinion or even like think that things with gender or identity can also be part of the science that we've learned more about? But no, you're like, no,
it was always better in the 50s. Yeah.
What, when people died of like a cold?
So we've developed like vaccines and medicines that we didn't used to have. So what, that doesn't actually exist because it didn't exist back when? How far do you want to go back?
Jesus didn't take penicillin, so I don't think we should either.
We should make a time machine, send them all back.
Yeah, so, get back to your own time zone. It's like 100 years ago. It was like, bye.
That would be lovely.
It would be, absolutely. Let's do the bigot walk.
Did you feel, though, that undertaking this surgery would resolve any problems in your life?
Absolutely. You know, here's the thing, and we don't talk about stuff, and I don't know why we don't talk about stuff, because we're butchering an entire generation of children.
This horrifies me that this is, I don't know how this person identifies, but somebody who transitioned and regrets that transition is now using the language like butchering children and an entire generation. Yes.
Every single Gen Z and Alpha is actually trans.
Oh, we are. I'm not Gen Z.
We're millennials. It creeped into the millennials. But like the butchering thing, it's horrendous because it's putting that phrasing out and people's imagery is like 6-year-olds having surgery, which does not happen. And this is someone who's had to undergo that process themselves, who knows this is bullshit and is spewing it anyway.
The problem is unfortunately, because like, I mean, I do think there are probably more LGBT and trans people in existence anyway. A lot of people just don't necessarily talk about it. When it comes to right-wing media, there's a tiny pool of people that will actually go onto these TV shows. So to find a trans person who says this kind of stuff is like gold dust to them, because they're like, we have found one person in like the tiny pool of people that are already in existence that we can get will come on, spew nonsense like this, so now it validates all the bigotry that we have because like, well, we got this one person to say these kind of things. This person is obviously unhappy. I find it interesting as well because people go, because you're part of a community, you can't also be like transphobic or homophobic.
You absolutely can have internalized phobia.
Absolutely. There are many people who can be racist. Candace Owens is also racist. She's an awful woman. She also is black. Like, you can find people because no matter what element of life you're in, you will always find hateful people.
You'll always find a pick-me.
Yeah, absolutely. And this person's probably got paid, I don't know, 10 grand or whatever to go on this TV show to talk about this kind of stuff because they know on this TV show that it's gold dust to them. So they will instantly be like, well, we'll pay you money, come on, do it. And then they get the right-wing grift all of a sudden because it's like, oh, I can make lots of money. So unfortunately, there's a lot of money in bigotry, which is really sad to say.
Let's carry on watching.
Society's going, yeah, they have no clue. And then you get to the process and you get through it and you realize, well, that didn't fix the thing. On top of people like in society and you and all that kind of stuff are not saying the truth because everybody doesn't want to hurt a man's feelings that has a sexual fetish of being considered a woman.
Let's talk about autogynephilia.
Okay.
Which is a very backwards view on trans women and is a set thing to people being a trans woman. But also, he talked about going through the process and it not helping anything. Literally, the peer-reviewed papers we have around the impact of transitioning on trans people's well-being is that it greatly helps.
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
Oh my God, it helps. And just even anecdotally, I know a lot of trans people because, you know, we all stick together and like they're all so much happier. Like you can just see it in all of them.
Yes, there will be some trans people that will regret their transition. That's just statistics and things like this will happen. You don't stop everyone else from getting healthcare because a couple people will regret it.
Also, the current statistic is it's under 1%. A majority of people who detransition not because they're not trans, but because it's not safe for them to be out as trans right now, and a lot of them go on to retransition later. And also 14.4% is the regret rate for general surgery. And that's actually considered quite good. And then we're saying that 1% is too much of a regret rate for trans people.
This guy said earlier on, it's like, oh, the butchering of children. Where have they got the information that children are getting cut open and stuff? Like, where does this come from?
It just started.
Okay.
I think people just started spreading that it's happening to kids because in some places, trans men can get top surgery between 16, 17 and 8, like when they're under 18. And that's kind of been extrapolated. It's so rare. And when I say so rare, I mean so incredibly rare.
I've never known a single person to ever do it. And I know a lot of trans people at this point.
And like 16, 17-year-olds can get plastic surgery, like rhinoplasties and stuff, and nobody ever puts up a fuss. But it's puberty blockers, and then they've extrapolated oh, children are having surgeries, and it's not. It's really, and in the UK, you do have to be 18.
Yeah.
So.
And wants, gender pronouns.
But some people would see you and see a man and say, well, that's a man. But are you saying it's not possible to change sex?
No, God, no. It's biologically impossible for one sex to become another.
So, sorry, are you saying that the studies that are available into the transitioning of children, and there can't be many because it hasn't been going on for that long, that they're all coming back and saying, we don't have any evidence that this is helping matters?
Yes!
Well, you can't be...
What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
It's like going,
I think the sky is bright yellow.
because I say it is. The fact that the earth is flat. Like, stupid.
It is, and it's like there aren't enough studies, but that's because people haven't cared enough to do it. As in, like, bigots have been gatekeeping decent trans research, but we're starting to see like the floodgates open a bit on that, and it's all showing that transitioning helps. Like,
You regret it.
like, in time, I really regret that my beard hair's not fuller.
I'm used to a lot of this nonsense from things like Buck Angel and stuff. That talking about the beginning is very common. But the thing that you said at the end to be like, this is all, like, none of this ever helps anyone. Like, what are you talking about at that point?
Yeah.
Like, you've drunk the Kool-Aid. You're too far down that rabbit hole at that point.
It's really sad to see, because it's like, this is somebody that probably had to fight for themselves to access gender affirming care, but clearly something's gone wrong with their process, either personally or whatever, that means they regret it. And instead of just reflecting and being like, I've had a bad experience, or I made a bad decision for myself, or that was the wrong path for me to take, they're now like putting that anger and regret out and impacting other people. And that's not fair. People who detransition or regret or have bad experiences deserve support.
Yeah.
And don't deserve to be shunned. Trans people don't hate detransitioners or people who regret, because it's not a threat to trans people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are happy with their transitions. But what is problematic is when those trans people or detransitioners then become transphobic.
Yeah.
Because why?
Unfortunately, a lot of it is money. I think when it comes to people's self-worth and how they feel about themselves, anything that they can do to validate their existence to make themselves feel better, they will go for, because that's what insecurity does to you. And unfortunately, as I said, there's a lot of money in being a right-wing grifter. People like Ollie London, for example, he's now just gone full right-wing, like insane.
Who is that, like Milo Yiannopoulos?
Yeah, like all these people make a lot of money, unfortunately. If there wasn't so much money, I 100% believe you would not see half the people saying that the stuff they say now. 100%.
Because the money is a payoff for how much they're disliked then by a community they used to be part of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just really sad, because it's all bullshit, and it's a shame that this is some people's only exposure to the trans community. This is all they will see.
Yeah.
And I can understand for those people why they would then be like, what the f*** is going on?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? This
Look
is
at
madness.
this beautiful woman who's now bald.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they'll think now.
Yeah.
They've ruined her life. Now
because they're not being told the truth. And trans people aren't allowed that access. Trolling Trump supporters with Kamala Harris.
Hello there. Hi. I work for the Harris and Waltz campaign.
Take it out.
No, I'm going to leave it there because...
No, you're not going to leave it there.
Oh, why?
Because I can't stand them.
Do you not support tampons in men's bathrooms?
No, I don't support tampons in men's bathrooms.
Why?
Because tampons are for women. Where are they going to stick it? Up their ass? Get it the out of here.
Well,
Get it out of my property.
It looks good there, though. Wait, don't touch my sign. That's my sign.
I don't give a shit. They're a bunch of communists.
You didn't address me by my pronouns.
What are you, a he, she? Transgender is what you are.
I'm two-spirit.
See, like, this person clearly isn't on the left anyway.
Yeah.
This person's clearly a right-winger themselves.
Yeah, I think it's a skit where they're both in on it. They're both right wing, and they've done that to try and like make the left look stupid.
Yeah. Again, these things just don't happen. So they have to fabricate it in order to make an argument, because that's the only way that they can possibly combat the left wing. Say this person really was a left winger. I still wouldn't agree with what they're doing. Like, it's weird. Like,
Yeah, to put a sign on someone else. Like, how would you feel if someone put a Trump sign on your lawn? Like,
and then like filmed you in your house. If this was legit, which I don't think it is, I still wouldn't like it. I think it's a weird thing to do.
those questions that the person who put the sign up is asking is not what somebody would ask. Like, you wouldn't go straight in for like, how do you feel about tampons in men's bathrooms? That's being done deliberately. If they're acting, but the person they filmed was genuine, they are still like doing this in bad faith to get a reaction out of the person.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But
it's stupid.
It is also sad because like that level of anger she had, I would be annoyed about somebody like trespassing on property and doing that. But the anger she had specifically about like tampons in men's bathrooms and trans people and pronouns and stuff, you can really see it. And even if that was a scripted bit, I feel like the anger behind it was real. I don't know.
But also his thing there, he's like, well, I'm actually two-spirited. I mean, yes, two-spirit is their form of identity, but I'm saying people who use the term like two-spirited, pretty sure two-spirited is about a culture.
It's to do with specific cultures.
Yeah, it's not like Keith, oh yes, I'm two-spirit. Like, it's to do with an actual culture of people. Like, I don't understand.
And it's an incredibly old identity. Like, being trans, there's so much history with it. It goes back so far. And two-spirit as well. People take the piss out of identities like that, but they are so old. Like, they've been around forever.
I'm pretty sure two-spirit is to do with Native Americans. I'm pretty sure that's what it's meant to do with. But like, the idea that you would be like, I'm two-spirit is like part of identity, but it's not the same as like the separation between the two. So to use that as part of the thing, as if like we're all being like, oh, we're two-spirited like angel fairy babies. It's
I feel like it was very used in the like, oh, the Gen Alphas identifying as anything and everything they want to.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's definitely not that.
It's a separate thing.
The way it was presented was very disrespectful. I mean, the whole thing was just shit.
I'm gonna be real with you. They be lying and they poison it to kill everybody.
Probably. Do you trust our government?
No.
All right, let me ask you a question on a serious note. Do you consider a trans man to be a man?
They've got black hats now that say "Make America Great Again." Don't ruin black hats. I can't wear red. Red used to be one of my favourite colours to have. Now I can't wear red hats. So I'm always like, people are going to think I'm a MAGA supporter. Don't use black hats too.
It sounds so similar to maggot as well.
Maggot. I mean, well, same thing.
No.
You don't.
And neither do a trans woman. If you're a guy going to a girl, look at your feet, first of all. If you're a girl going to a guy, how's that period every month? Like, that shit's never going to go away.
Look at your feet. She's basically saying, like, trans women can't be women and trans men can't be men. If you're a trans woman, look at your feet and that'll tell you that you're a man. And if you're a trans man, how's the period going every month? That'll never go away. And it's like, testosterone. Thanks. They can attest it does go away.
But again, it's using the stupid argument. It's like, there are many cis women who also...
With big feet.
Who also
don't have periods.
It's such a weird argument to make.
It's a stupid argument. It's an argument from somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they are literally taking the very basics of that understanding of stereotypes and biology and extrapolating that out onto a group of people that they probably have never spoken to a trans person.
Do you think these people have any idea what a trans person is?
Never knowingly spoken to a trans person, wouldn't know the definition, don't actually know what it is, but are just like,
oh, yeah, no, that's like women who want to be men and men who want to be women. No, that can't happen because I went to primary school.
Yeah. She has more to say, unfortunately.
Like, y'all can stay here and do this, that, and the third, and I'm gonna be real with you. I feel like I have nothing against gay people, but when you come out of character and do too much, chill. Like, these gay men be trying to fight females, trying to get uteruses and shit, bro.
Gay men are trying to get uteruses. I want to know where the that story
Where did that come from?
Where did gay men want uteruses came from?
She's just a conspiracy theorist.
Like, what she just said to them, it's very like...
I'm not homophobic, I've got gay friends.
But they stare at me too much, they want to get uteruses. Like...
No, it's like, she's got nothing against you.
No, she's nothing...
But me, I've gone too far.
Yeah, like...
I've come out of character, whatever she meant by that. I think the gay men getting uteruses things comes from her not believing that trans women are women.
Okay.
Thinking that trans women are just gay men because she, for some reason, cannot separate sexual orientation with gender identity.
Okay.
And then there is talk that in the future, uterus transplants will be possible for trans women. But she's had to have gotten really specific cherry-picked information to reach that misunderstanding.
Yeah, I don't understand how you've managed to, like, what?
It's like she's heard some stuff. She's probably just listened to, like, a Ben Shapiro talk or something.
Yeah, probably, yeah. All these gay men want to get uteruses. That's my awful...
He might show up in this.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Sit here and try to have a baby. Like, fuck out of here. Let me cut your balls every month. How about that? Like, this shit, like, is bugging. And I fuck with the flag. It's Trump forever.
I was about to ask you, Trump or Biden?
Trump. And when everybody finds that out, they're going to be pissed as shit.
That's right.
They're going to be real mad.
What's your name?
No, they're not, because his
My
audience
name is
not
Nikki
going to be anti-Trump.
Francis.
Are you like I'm Adam Francisco. Are you like a celebrity?
I'm a big influencer, yeah.
You are?
I am.
What's your biggest platform?
TikTok.
How many subs you got?
Of course.
200,000 followers.
Yo, she's almost twice as big as you, Savannah. Oh, shit.
200,000 followers on TikTok is nothing. Sorry, it's not anything.
I thought she said 20,000, but even 200,000.
No, so, like, when we come to hierarchy of, like, platforms, getting followers on TikTok is the easiest out of all of them.
Not to shit on anyone, but just the basics of how the platforms work.
Yeah, if you look at people who do creating content for a living, TikTok is the least viable one when it comes to follower, I guess, importance. Hence why you can get so many people on TikTok of 10 million followers, and some of their TikToks get like 10,000 views. So, Sylvie, I'm the big influencer. Sorry, it's meaningless.
The way she was talking, it was so confusing.
Trying to dissect what she just said is like trying to eat a Rubik's Cube. It's just not going to go the way you think it's
just not going to go down.
No, it's just not going to go down. No. Whole as well. Like, not breaking bits.
Oh, just literally, it just doesn't work.
And a 12 by 12 cube. So it's
okay.
There was an odd woman who swallowed a fly and a 12 by 12 Rubik's Cube.
And she just sounded like she wanted to make people mad when she was like, oh, people are going to be pissed as shit when they find out I support drag. So you want to annoy people.
The thing is, like, I found her more confusing than annoying. I find it more annoying when it's like someone like Piers Morgan who actually has some kind of, I guess, real platform and real... Like, I don't think Piers Morgan is stupid. I think he's smart, but he's just...
It's people who have a platform and can package lies in a way that sounds smart.
Yes.
But she wasn't packaging it in any way
that just... It was just nonsensical, rambling bollocks. Like, that doesn't make me angry. That just makes me go, you're unwell? Like, you're so unwell.
Very confused.
Yeah.
I don't know if that interviewer was the type who's there to, like, bait Trump supporters. You know how sometimes they go along to the rallies to see the ridiculous shit they say. He could have been that because he wasn't saying anything that was, like, antagonistic or supportive of her or supportive of anybody else. He seemed very neutral.
Possibly.
And just to kind of see what she was going to say. So I'd be interested to know. So this is an intro. The, like, Big Brother TikTok had a little intro for every housemate.
And I work in marketing.
Oh, the comb over.
Working class, northern lad. If I can get here, anyone can get here. Big up the People's Champ.
First out, People's Champ.
I think I'm strong, opinionated. There's a lot of woke people out there. It's all well and good if you want to use certain pronouns, and I get that. It gets a bit confusing sometimes when people are identifying as a spoon or
Literally
whatnot.
no one is identifying as a spoon. I just love the fact that he was the first out.
It's the fact that he went for like...
I'm 28 years young, I'm a man of the people, I don't like pronouns, and trans people confuse me, and if you're woke, bleh, I'm going to be energetic, bye.
And so it's like the big middle chunk. I'm sure they filmed a lot more, and this is how they chose to portray him, but he still said it.
I mean, I do think there's an element of like not being very, I guess, media savvy, because if I was in an interview, I know really if they're going to take a soundbite, they're going to take the most dramatic thing or the most polarizing thing you say. So I go into the interviews, whatever, knowing that will be the case. So I make sure that if I say something that's quite intense, that what I say is actually meaningful to the whole thing. He sounds like the kind of person that would have been like, and then started talking about loads of shit and then decided to pick pronouns for no reason, when you could have said anything else in your life, anything else that you could have an opinion on that maybe would have been less polarizing, but you chose to talk about pronouns for literally no reason.
Yeah, like, it's not the worst thing somebody said. He's not being horrifically transphobic. He just sounds horrifically ignorant.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you just took the time to understand a little bit about what we mean by pronouns, about the fact people are not identifying as spoons.
Yeah.
Being woke just means not being bigoted, not being closed-minded. It means being more accepting and open-minded to the world we live in now. And so when people are like,
oh, I'm so anti-woke, it's like,
how can you be? Do you want to go live like 100 years ago? Great. So he's not saying like the worst stuff. I'm not like labeling him transphobic. I just think he's been a bit silly with, and I know nothing more about this guy than what he said. I'm assuming because he went out first, he also just wasn't that great anyway. Him saying that just shows a deep misunderstanding that, like, just don't talk about it then.
Yeah.
If you're not keen, you don't understand it, just stay away and let people live their lives. Yeah. That's it.
I think I'm a little bit less forgiving than you. I'm always just like, out of anything you could have said, you decided to talk about people identifying as spoons. Like, that's the shit that you see on Twitter. That is the shit you see on Facebook. It's so pathetic. And at this point, it's really childish. Like, that's nonsense I expect, like, teenagers to joke about, not fully grown adult men who are losing their hair.
He did say he's 28 years young.
Oh, shut up. Please accept you're going bald, please. I don't like this fake comb over, sorry.
Bald is beautiful.
Bald is beautiful.
It's okay.
All 4 haircuts where they're like, oh no, I can't possibly. No, just deal with it. I'm very adamant when it comes to bald.
Oh, you don't say.
Lady Victoria. Are you a boy or a girl? Because I'm confused right now.
The reality is, there was no disruption plan.
Just as a little intro to this one.
Clash!
This is someone who's gone on TV to speak about something to do with the coronation. Like, nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with identity. They are there to speak about something to do with the royal family, I believe. And this is how the interview went. Like, the first thing we saw is the interviewer being like, are you a boy or a girl?
So why are you protesting if you're not disrupting anything?
That's actually a really good point, right?
Because you're not doing anything. No one cares. No one cares about you guys. You guys are just like...
Well, clearly
you raised two really important points there.
They don't care about you.
First of all, we got a poll last week, or maybe the week week before from ITV saying 51% of British people support the monarchy. That's massively down. The reality is people do care. No. People dislike the monarchy. And,
they don't. Just it's your age group. It's this woke age group.
Lady Victoria.
Are you a boy or a girl? Because I'm confused right now.
But that's genuinely absurd. No, We're having like a legitimate,
but I'm just
or I would hope legitimate
but
debate
if you
around
can't
this issue.
decide what gender or sex
we should stick to the topic. We should stick to the topic because we're here. No, but Lady V, we're here to talk about the monarchy.
So this guy here is one of those disgusting, gross right-wing. The idea that the host of GB News, a horrifically right-wing, is literally telling you that you need to stop talking about this. Like, you are seriously, like, off the deep end. That had nothing to do with gender at all whatsoever. No. I'm not going for the person who's doing the interviewee, but going on to GB News and expecting that you're going to get heard is kind of stupid at this point. We fully know that these right-wing companies, they're not going to listen to what you're saying. The audience of these people are not going to change their mind. Like, when you're watching this kind of media. So I do think it was kind of ignorant to go on a show like this and actually think you're going to have a meaningful discussion about the royal family.
Yeah, I think there was perhaps naivety involved there. But maybe just like a want to, like, if everybody says no, not even like one person watching would ever hear a different perspective. It's tricky because it's like, I would know to say no to GB News. However, not everybody will know exactly what it's like, and some people will think, oh, I can make a difference, and if everybody says no, they're never going to hear this perspective on this topic. But it's tricky. I think they stayed remarkably calm for the fact that they weren't being even allowed to speak properly, and when they were speaking, she just interrupted them again to be like, are you a boy or a girl? Like, why are you so like rabid about somebody else's identity?
It's because they know that if they let someone else talk, there's a possibility that they can be proven wrong, and they don't want to. It's the same with the Piers Morgan suddenly goes, well, why can't I identify as a black lesbian? It's because they don't want to actually have a discussion about what's going on. They just go, well, I'm right and I don't want my opinion changed, so I'm going to go to this absurd length that makes everything else you say crazy, because now you're talking about, like, well, whatever that person, let's talk about, are you a boy or girl?
Well, your generation can't think about what gender you are.
They generally believe that all people who are like Gen Alpha, Gen Z are trans and like non-binary and like fairy and
just like so woke that they don't understand anything about the world.
Unfortunately for these people, you're going to die, and you're going to die hated, because as progression goes on, people of younger generations are not going to suddenly care about the monarchy. Like, unless suddenly it was overtaken by like a load of like hip people who are fun, the monarchy is going to die. And you can sit and scream and be like,
oh, but what about the gender pronouns?
That's nothing to do with anything that was being discussed here. And that's because she knew that she doesn't have an argument.
Yeah,
so
and
she jumps to something else.
It was a diversion, right?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, if I delegitimize this person who actually maybe sounds like they could have legitimate points here, because they were sounding calm, they were sounding rational in what they were saying, I wanted to hear their opinion. Yeah. And she knew there would be some people watching that may also feel that way. But as soon as you bring up something that you know a majority of the viewers of that show are going to get like all like, oh my God, and like, as you would say, frothing at the mouth over. Yes, I just want that as like a gift. It completely detracts from the actual conversation. Yeah. And it's almost like, you know, Drag Race, look over there. That's just what they do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm losing this battle. Look at this one. Be mad about this thing.
I identify as non-binary, which means that I'm neither male nor female, and corresponding to that, I use the they, them pronoun.
And you say gender roles are damaging our society, so we need to think very carefully about language.
Yes, so a lot of our social selves are codified and encultured in the language that we use. We really use it to construct our entire society.
There are a tiny minority of people who have intersex conditions. Apart from this, we are all male and female, and the attempt to suggest that there is a third gender is, as far as I'm concerned, it's an ideological and a political project.
Project?
My arts project!
Gender non-binary. A star. Like,
and it's like, she's not knowing the biological fact that sex and gender are two separate things, but she's also completely disrespecting non-Western cultures that have recognized third genders forever.
Forever.
And also like Western cultures where it's not a new woke thing. It's been around for a really long time. And it's like, you are just talking out your ass right now because you're a bigot.
Especially in 2024, to still have these views a bit like, our culture that we have is the be-all and end-all of existence. A bit like I said about the whole science and knowing technology and stuff, where like other cultures have had different opinions on gender for millennia. Like, and even in places like, I'm pretty sure India, the Hydra, they have like roles in their communities of like actually like quite high up power, because they're seen as like almost like ethereal beings. So it's like, it's interesting that even now this woman's like, oh, but So you're just saying all these people in this completely other side of the world is completely wrong?
Yeah.
I don't understand how you can that your ego is so big to see that. I mean, a lot of it is because white.
Yeah.
So I find that really, really confusing this day and age that you're still having this idea.
This is still the opinion.
Yeah.
So I think the discussion here kind of started around like gender stereotypes and gender roles, and also ignoring the fact that outside of Western cultures, like typical dress is very varied, and we may see it as more feminine throughout time. You go back to what, like Elizabethan time?
Oh, they were all those men were literally just like, I'm in my pumpsy little wig and my little...
The big wig and the shoes and the tights and everything. It was all very like...
Honestly, in today's standards, they were such flamers. Like, and they're like...
Oh, pumpy wumpy girl.
Tottling around in their little high heels.
And we love it.
Yeah.
But people seem to forget that throughout history, what we consider stereotypically masculine and feminine has changed so much. Pink used to be for boys.
Yeah. I did a video a little while ago where there was a pasta.
I thought you were talking about like pasta.
Oh, there was a talking piece of pasta. I was actually on ecstasy.
Spaghetti.
Taking magic mushrooms. I was completely hallucinating. So there was this pastor who was talking about in the Bible that sort of said that women was always wearing women's clothes and men always wore men's clothes. And I'm like, you're wearing clothes that didn't exist 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, you're also mixing fabrics. Right?
The clothes that we are wearing, everything that we're wearing now, did not exist 2024 years ago when Jesus was like part of the land. Like, we didn't wear suits. Like,
because it was all very simple cloth, because that's what people made.
So the idea of it being like,
men were always meant to wear this.
What, because some tailor 50 years ago said, this is for a man?
People would understand it more if they just realised that like the colours, the toys, the clothing, it's all because of like a capitalistic society saying this is what you should do so they can market certain products to certain people. That's it.
People really cannot grasp the concept that clothing is completely made up.
Yeah.
Everything that people wear, how are you that dense that you can't go,
oh, maybe they weren't wearing boob tubes and miniskirts in 1205 BC.
They weren't wearing stilettos?
And let's say like the Egyptians, when people like Tutankhamun were around, like what clothes were they wearing?
Very different.
Gay, that's for a woman. Like,
yeah, very that.
Time in history, a lot more men wore lots of makeup. A lot of these people didn't give a shit about all the androgynous that was in like the glam rock in the 80s and everything.
Yeah.
Or men were just wearing makeup and all that shit.
David Bowie.
No one gave a shit. It's like everyone's got now collective amnesia and they've just like forgotten history.
And a lot of the people saying it are people who would have been around and like present in the
probably
80s.
I bet a lot of these bigots probably had huge puffy perms and wore lots of makeup in the 80s who probably came...
Yeah, because they thought it was like, oh, this is what the times are like.
Men used to wear booty shorts and crop tops and that was normal.
Love a man in booty shorts.
Absolutely, yeah.
What I think they've all gotten bored in their middle age and this is the hobby they've chosen. They've been like, I could knit, I could sew, I could do puzzles. Oh, I could be a bigot. And then they pick bigotry.
Refuse to refer to this woman here, who's clearly a woman, as a they, because for me that would be imposing an ideological political system. Because she is. If everybody watching this programme can see that she is a woman, it relates to a physical reality.
Bigots love to mention a physical reality. And they're like, if you make me refer to this person that my worldview tells me is this, but you're telling me to refer to them as that, you're imposing an ideological view on me. But it's like, no, actually, you're imposing your ideological view on that person and how you are respecting that person. And also that view that this woman has, who is just getting so goddamn angry about it, that harms cis women as much as it harms trans people. Because like there was a cis woman recently who got kicked out of the women's bathroom, and this has happened multiple times. There was a cis woman who was a grandma who got sent to prison.
Grandma?
That's not relevant, really. But she was just older. Like she was just this like older woman who got sent to prison. I don't know what for, but because she was taking estrogen pills. Oh, that's why it's relevant. Because she's older, she was on hormone replacement. And because she was taking estrogen, they put her in men's prisons because they thought she was a trans woman. And I'm like, you're literally hurting cis women.
It's so common for older people to take. I'm pretty sure my granddad was on testosterone because his testosterone was so low because he was like 80.
And it's when people are like, I hate
puberty blockers. HRT is dangerous. It's like...
Okay, explain HRT to me then, please.
So many cis people are on it.
Tell me the science behind puberty blockers. Tell me what it's actually doing. And they'll be like, they don't have any idea. They hear a catchphrase, a buzzword, and so they run with it and they're like, yeah, that's that. And they're actually trying to get them to dissect it. It's like, no.
I know, and then if you push this woman and been like, okay,
off a cliff and she dies, and that's the best thing to do. Bye!
Broly is joking.
Yeah!
For purposes of this video.
JK! Rowling.
The woman arguing, like, being transphobic. If you really push and you were like, why are you stating that you will only see this person as a woman? She'd just be like, because they're clearly a woman. Why? Because that's what they look like. Well, why? What means they look like a woman to you, long hair. Okay, what about women with short hair? Like, if you keep pushing it, it's like there is actually no set standard of what a woman should look like. Yeah. But she just thinks that there is.
And also, it's one of those things that they think if they just shout, then it makes their point better. Where was the justifiable anger in what you just said? You were just screaming for the sake of screaming.
Yeah.
You were so angry, which, great, get that cortisol, bitch, age yourself. But like, if I shout and be loud, that means my point is more valid. And it's like, no, actually, it makes you look a bit delulu. You just get memed on and you seem stupid, because I'm not going to take anything you say seriously when you're just screaming. Oh, yeah. It goes for our side too. If I see someone on the left wing who's trying to have a discussion with someone and they're just screaming at them, I'm like, this is not helping our cause. People are just going to say, that's the crazy bitch that screamed at me. Like, no one's ever going to change their mind by being screamed at in the face.
Yeah, and I think the difference I see is this person screaming over something that literally doesn't impact them.
Yeah.
Often when I see people on the left screaming, I'm like, there is a better way to communicate this, but it's coming from a genuine place of like hurt.
Oh yeah, that anger is completely unjustified.
That is so unjustified.
Yeah.
Because the most dangerous type of transphobia, and the worst, is when it's a transphobe who can package lies and stupidity cleverly and calmly.
Yeah.
And they will calmly basically just degrade and disrespect a trans person. It's okay.
Pull the microphone, the whole desk just collapses.
It's when they'll very calmly degrade and disrespect a trans person sitting across from them, and then basically just sit back and let that person get angry and look like the absolutely unhinged one, when really what they're saying is horrific.
I watched a Jubilee video recently.
Oh, God.
To be honest, I more so watch it out of morbid curiosity rather than actually giving a shit, because I find it very rage-baiting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
There was one part, though, that I was really shocked out, and I get that they're there to share people's opinions, and I don't disagree with like letting them show this man say this because it makes him look horrible. But I find it interesting that they didn't say anything afterwards. The topic wasn't even necessarily about trans people, but that just came up in discussion. Okay. And then he was like, oh, we're letting all these T-slurs use the bathroom. And I was like, no one after that on the team was like, maybe we shouldn't use that kind of language.
Did
like,
they beep it?
No, they left it completely. And I was like, I find it interesting that this has been left in. And I think, yes, actually, show this person saying it because it makes them seem hateful. But the fact that not even the moderator was like, maybe we shouldn't use that language.
Or they didn't leave it in.
Yeah.
No, because that's not okay, because there will be bigots watching that and hearing somebody use that slur and then be like, oh, it's not been beeped. Nobody said anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that. I can use it. I only use it when I'm talking about it being used as a slur. Like when I'm making videos, I say the T slur because I know it can trigger people. But like if I'm having a conversation with friends where I know it's not going to trigger anybody and I'm referring, I will say it. But I don't just say it casually.
I do think as well, it's like that guy, the offensive T slur on Twitter. I'm like, that is really going to make Keith from down the street be like, oh, well,
he's actually a trans person and he can say it, so
I'll say it. I don't understand why people are so obsessed with like, no, I want to be able to say it.
It's because people want to be able to do what they're not like. You tell someone they can't do something and they want to do it more.
I think I get that to a certain degree, but maybe because I'm not a hateful person, like I've never wanted to say the N-word.
No,
like,
I don't understand that desire. Like I'm literally married to somebody, and Shaba as well. Like we're both in a relationship where one person in the relationship can say a slur the other can't.
Yeah.
And even though
you say it
we're
all the time.
Married, I still don't say the ones I'm not allowed to say that Shaba can. I don't say any that aren't ones that I personally can reclaim.
Yeah, I don't understand like where it comes from, where it's like, I must be able to say this. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It honestly depends on the company you are with.
Oh, yeah.
Because I would never call it to someone I didn't know.
Yeah.
I might make jokes about it, about myself. I would never have a new person in my life.
Where you're just like, hello.
Yeah, exactly. Me and my sister will call each other slurs all the time.
Yeah.
So she'll call me that, and I'll call her the other one. But that's like, I would never do it to anyone else.
But that's like, there's permission in
yeah,
that
exactly. I would
space,
never do it to anyone else.
Yeah.
I think people don't understand a lot of the reclamation.
Yes.
Where's that word? We're making it right. That like sometimes it's okay in certain situations for certain people.
It's context
but
dependent.
This idea that people have this urge. It's like the fairy tale in New York thing where everyone goes, you're a bum, you're a in that song. And all the straight people are like, I want to be a... And people got so angry that they changed it to MAGA. And it's like, I don't understand, why are you so obsessed with wanting to say the F slur? And also, they wouldn't just like sing it, they would scream it at that moment. It was like, there's so many videos. If people don't know, it's an old like Christmas song from like Ireland from these two people. At the time, it was meant as like a waster. I think it was meant to be like someone who doesn't have a job or something. Today's standard, the F slur is obviously quite an offensive slur. But they would refuse to change the word. So every year, all these straight people love the fact that they could just scream the word as loud as they possibly could. The same
you saw it. It's like it was pent up inside them all year, and now suddenly, my one chance to say it. This one is somebody reacting to a Peter Dinklage interview where it goes a little bit not right.
Okay.
Very surprising. The Transpo team. These are the people that drive you around.
The trans team, yeah. Are you going to do it again? Are you going to rile me up?
Why is that funny?
Hey,
Why is that funny?
Hey, are you going to fucking rile me up right now?
The trans team, which we call it.
The trans.
That's what you call
Yeah, I
them.
heard they run Hollywood.
Yeah.
They do. They do run Hollywood.
They move.
And for whatever reason, a little bit faster than regular women.
So they're talking about, I think, some kind of transportation team for Peter Dinklage on set, and they call them the Transpo team. And Peter Dinklage was joking with the host, trans team, and I feel like the host has some kind of negativity towards trans people, and that was said as a deliberate, like, I'm going to make you mad about trans people right now. And then they were joking, the trans team run Hollywood because there's this conspiracy, like, from transvestigators. I think that's where it's coming from, that, like, loads of powerful people in Hollywood are trans and they run it. Then they were talking about, and they run a little bit faster than regular women, which is a, like...
Athlete.
Yeah, on trans women athletes. So this is basically, like, doing jokes about trans people, but badly, in the way that you shouldn't when you're not trans.
Yeah.
The Transpo team, all women.
What did that do for you?
That's it. I didn't know that they could drive stick. I didn't know. I guess what we're trying to say is that women can drive.
If they're possessed by a man.
Yes.
This is the true showcase of just like how awful the brain rot goes deep, because this had literally nothing to do with trans people.
Yeah, and now it's just
completely irrelevant to anything that was going on.
Dissolved into laughing about basically how they think trans women are actually men.
Yeah.
And it is disappointing for somebody as an actor who, I think the person is reacting to this and like calling out the negativity and the bigotry in this video, who I think they looked up to Peter Dinklage, and it's like, well, not anymore, because like even if he doesn't hold transphobic views to heart and he wouldn't go out and be transphobic, he's laughing along with transphobia that is damaging to the community and makes it seem like it's okay to other bigots that they can laugh about trans people.
No, I agree.
It's a really good way to be an ally, actually, even if you're not in a context where you feel comfortable or safe to call out transphobia or transphobic jokes, by just not laughing at them. Like if he just sat there stony faced and not gone along with it and added to those jokes, I would have been like, maybe he could have said something, because he was still in a relative position of power, being a needed interviewee on this kind of thing. They're having him there to pull in views, but by just remaining like po-faced, not reacting, and making that conversation die as quickly as possible, that's still helping.
I do think to myself though, is like, well, why are you going on podcasts where people are going to be like this anyway? Like,
yeah, surely he knew what the podcast was like.
I would never do anything that I didn't really understand what was going on. Like there might be some ignorance sometimes, but like if someone says to me, "We come on this show," I'm making sure that I am researching what that show is before I go on. I think sometimes when you just talk to people on the internet, like you're not going to research every single person you reply to a tweet to or something. But like if you're going to go onto a filmed podcast, and this person's not like a rando, this is a person who's known.
So like whenever I do a podcast, if they want to cover trans topics, I look at the podcast, I look at the host of the podcast, I look at how they've covered similar topics in the past, and I ask for questions in advance, or at least general topics in advance, so I know the tone, and I ask for like the tone of the piece. And like if it's not sitting right with me, or they refuse to send through things in advance, I'm like, I'm not doing it.
You're not just some like small person who needs it for popularity. The fact that you wouldn't say anything to me goes, well, you're just as bad, sorry. Like you're not just like some random person who needed this for the money or whatever, who was like scared. You are a fully grown adult who can just talk for yourself and be like, well, if you genuinely didn't believe or think what he was saying was correct, you should have just said something. Like this isn't just like some scared person who was like, oh no, I'm gonna get killed by this.
And who's like, oh, I'm worried if I speak out against them, I'll get cancelled and I won't get work anymore. You're sat there as someone with a lot of influence. People are going to watch that and go like,
oh, Peter Dinklage thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I can think that's funny.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to laugh at this now.
Not okay. I was very disappointed when I found this.
Yeah. I think the whole thing of like too scared to say anything only works when it's like not someone like that who's like such a big celebrity. Like, why would you be scared? Like they're not going to kill you. They're not going to murder you. Like
they're not even going to cancel you. They'll just be like, oh, he didn't laugh at
it might just be a bit weird and awkward, but I'd rather have a weird and awkward situation than be like hateful to people.
Yeah.
How do you say that some people don't have privilege when you basically just said that trans people aren't valid? They're not a thing. They're just girls pretending to be boys or boys pretending to be girls.
Okay. Oh, someone's excited. Okay.
Biological, but gender is a completely different thing.
No, gender is not disconnected from sex. So.
It's not completely disconnected, but it's still a cultural thing. It's still from society.
He's stood at Ben Shapiro's now, so they're going, no, it's not different. But like, we know that in utero, when fetuses are developing, the brain and the genitals develop at different times. Your physical sex develops at a different time to your brain.
Yeah.
The existence of trans people proves that the two can be separate. I don't choose to be discriminated against. I don't choose to live my life as a trans person.
Sure?
I am very sure.
You didn't want to clout on the internet.
You're making me question things now.
Oh, good. Yeah, you should really.
Oh my God, did I just do this all for views?
Oh my God, the offensive. Interesting, because they're like not even someone who regrets transition.
It's so bizarre.
Like they're just like an actual trans person. They're just like, no, but you shouldn't also be trans. Like, what?
And they just pick on other trans people.
No, it is not in the mind. Okay, you're not a man if you think you're a man. And I didn't say pretend.
I don't think
Or if I did, I shouldn't have said pretending. Let me amend.
I just am.
Okay, I said a boy who thinks he's a girl. That's the usual phraseology I use. Not playing. I usually say a boy who thinks he's a girl or a girl who thinks he's a boy.
And this is such a tactic that bigots often use and like right-wingers often use of like, he's not actually going in depth about the discussion or the argument or going back to her point. He's just fixated on the fact that she used the word pretending and he usually uses the word thinks.
Yeah.
That is a absolute moot point in this conversation. You do not need to bring that up. It does not matter, because at the end of the day, you're saying the same thing regardless of whether you said pretend or think. And he's just focused on that because there's not a real argument.
I also think to myself though, I'm like, why do you care?
Yeah.
Essentially, why do you care? Like, why do you give a shit?
It's my biggest question when it comes to
why,
trans folks.
Why? Do you care? And again, I'm not trying to go for the person asking questions. You're talking to Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
He's not gonna change his mind. Why are you trying to debate with Ben Shapiro?
I think the one thing that can come out of it is at some point to really like catch out what he's saying, because when people lie or they're relying on like false facts and their feelings rather than what is actual reality, at some point things they say, and we see this a lot with like turf arguments, they counter each other out. They'll make one argument on day 2 and one argument on day 4 and they completely...
But I do agree with you when it comes to moderate people. Ben Shapiro is not a moderate person, so the people who follow and watch Ben Shapiro are not going to be the like centrist people. Matt Walsh and like these kind of like, they're so far down the rabbit hole.
And
it's
so
like,
are the people viewing them.
Like everyday people, except for people like us who might react to stuff, like they're not there to watch and to have their mind changed. They're already too far gone. Average middle central, maybe left leaning or even slightly right leaning people are not going to be watching these people and like going, yeah, they're so no. So debating someone like Ben Shapiro, it's just pointless. You're wasting your time.
Also, people on the side of bigotry, in my opinion, do not fight fair when it comes to arguments.
Oh, absolutely
they're not there to have a rational, based in reality, based in truth discussion. They're just there to say whatever they can come up with to convince the people watching that they are right and you are wrong.
Well, their goal in this situation is to make the other person angry, so then the other person looks crazy. That's what they're trying to do. Caitlin Bennett, when she was going around the school campus, like trying to bait people and getting angry, and going to pride parades and trying to get, and then acting like she's a victim. That's all they do, and he does the exact same thing. His entire goal is to make the left-wing people look crazy, so he'll do and say whatever he wants. Yeah, I just think, again, I think, yeah, discuss with people, but there is a part of me that just goes, you are wasting your time talking to Ben Shapiro. He is never going to change his mind on anything. He hasn't just drunk the Kool-Aid, he is the Kool-Aid.
Oh, God.
As the actual psychological issues at play, it used to be called gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder. Now they call it gender dysphoria.
They did, because gender identity disorder was not appropriate diagnosis and the criteria were not appropriate. It's now been updated. See how they cannot move with the times.
Yeah.
The idea that sex or gender are malleable is not true. Okay, and I'm not denying your humanity if you're a transgender person.
I like how they always shove this in. They're like, go live your life however you... Just don't impose it on other people. And it's like, no, because you're stopping me from living my life
Go live your life, but we will pass on these laws that make it harder for you to live your life.
Exactly. And I'm going to actively say things that help pass those laws. And it's like, he's trying to come across very rational. So he's saying a bit about like sex and gender are not malleable. I don't really think many people believe they are malleable. Like, it's not saying like, oh, we can mold gender and choose whatever we want. It's just
like Play-Doh, girls.
It's about living your life as who you are. Not who you think you are, not who you pretend to be, but who you actually are. Because for me, pretending and living is something I try to force myself would be if I tried to live as a girl. That's not right. That's not who I am.
Like, I just don't care if someone over there who is a man is wearing a dress. I don't care if there's a woman over there who's wearing, male clothing. I don't care if there is someone over there who looks androgynous. Who was like, it's just so empty, these arguments they have, and it's so pointless, it's so vapid. There's nothing to it because ultimately it doesn't affect you in any way, shape or form.
And they know it doesn't, and that's why they use women and children as a argument point. That's why they use women's rights and protecting children.
Care.
Well, because they use like, oh, I'm not saying it for me, I'm saying it because I'm protecting kids. And it's like, well, now you're just pulling on the heartstrings of people watching who don't know anything else.
Yeah.
But in reality, you're not protecting kids with what you're saying because kids are not in danger from the trans community.
Yeah. The only reason kids would care is because you've made them care. You've installed this ideology onto them that this is like a man is this and a woman is this and men do this and women do this. And it's like we've already established at this point that like that type of upbringing actually is incredibly poisonous to children. Even just like cis straight people. There are many cis straight men who are a little bit more feminine, who show their like more feminine side, even like to wear makeup, all this stuff, and feel so awful about it. So they're like, no, because it means I'm gay, because blah blah blah. And like the amount of men who are just like absolutely bonkers because they haven't been able to express their like emotions because they're made to feel stupid.
The amount of cis straight men who literally refuse to cry and have all this pent up emotion because they think it's weak for them to show it.
These are the kind of people that like die at the age of 40 because their heart can't take it because they've kept it all like keeping in emotions. It's like a hard fact now that it ruins your body. It ruins you, and then it only ends up with you either like going psychotic and hurting someone, or just having this huge meltdown and ended up needing psychiatric help because you just had like a complete breakdown, and now you need to go to therapy for weeks and weeks and weeks. You need to take medication because you just kept it all in. It's had this emotion explosion because you've not been able to like say this one little thing when you were 20 years old because you were too scared. Like it's actually really sad. Like
it is really sad.
Nervous breakdowns and mental breakdowns because you've had to keep things in all the time because you've been made to feel like it's gay or sick.
Okay, and I'm not denying your humanity if you're a transgender person. I am saying that you are not the sex to which you claim to be. You're still a human being, and you're a human being with an issue that I wish you Godspeed in dealing with in whatever way you see fit. But if you are going to,
but you don't see the way you see
I'm
fit.
supposed to pretend. I'm supposed to pretend that men are women and women are men. No, my answer is no. I'm not going to modify basic biology because it threatens your subjective sense of what you are. You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy to be a Boy Scout. In the name Boy Scouts.
And then everybody applauded him because his argument was you have to be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. And she pushes back and she's like, where is the evidence? He's like, in the name boy. And it's like, but then you don't accept it when I'm like, I'm a trans man. And they're like, why? And it's like, trans man.
Yeah.
Like, that's the same argument. And I wouldn't expect somebody who didn't accept trans people to accept that as an argument. So instead, what I have to rely on is medical facts, is scientific facts, is the fact that trans people exist in this world despite the discrimination they face. And it's like, you still don't believe me. And he throws in all that bullshit about like, you do whatever you need to do. I respect your humanity. Well, no, because if you did, you wouldn't be doing this because actually this damages trans people. TERFs do protests in her name with I Love JK Rowling signs. Was she one of the 60,000 people that showed up to Trans Pride in London this year? No.
I find it interesting as well as like how many people who are clearly not scientists talk about biology. I'm not going to pretend that I understand anything about biology, but I'm not a scientist. I'm not here being like talking about it in any more than an empty way, but these people will literally talk about it as if like they have like master's degrees in like biology.
Yeah, and they're experts.
And they're like, but all they ever say, if you actually push them, they'll say X chromosomes, X5 chromosomes. I was like, okay, but tell me something actually more than that. But
and also, if you think that being trans isn't a biological fact for some people, and it's just like when some people are like, oh, people choose to be gay, well, why don't you choose to be trans? Why don't you live as a woman for a week then and just see like how actually you cannot do that? Everything they talk about, everything they cite is just absolute rubbish.
Like that moron who recently, he was that guy who like pretended to be trans, and he was I did it to show how gullible the left wing are. We didn't believe you, sis. None of us believe. But also, we didn't believe. But also, a lot of it is like, oh great, so because some left wing people were nice to me, I've owned them. So you've shown that left wing people are kind to people. Like what? I don't like. That's not owning anyone.
It's really not. It's just owning yourself. There were 2 cis women on OnlyFans who pretended to be trans women because they realized it was lucrative.
Yeah.
And then they were like basically calling trans people TERFs because trans people called them out. And they're like, you can't identify as trans women if you're a cis woman. And they're like, well, we can identify as trans because you can identify as trans and anybody can identify as trans. It's like, no, you can identify as trans if you're trans. Like there's a very important thing there. If you are a cis woman whose assigned birth sex is woman and you still identify as a woman, then you can't be a trans woman. You can be a trans man if your gender is man. It's so messed up the way they think they can twist arguments and say stuff like, oh, you can't change your sex and all of these things, because like I'm not saying I'm the same as a cis man. I'm also not the same as a cis woman though.
No.
Like my legal
you're
sex.
not the same as a spoon either, apparently.
I'm not a spoon.
No.
My legal sex is male. My primary and secondary sex characteristics are not exclusively that of like a cis man and not exclusively that of a cis woman. Like I have a flat chest, I have body hair, I have a deep voice, I have had lower surgery, and it baffles me because I'm like, everything is a little bit more grey than right wingers like to think it is. So in conclusion,
bunch of
transphobes are awful people who lie. Yeah, it gets so tedious because I'm seeing like the same things come up like time and time again, just slightly repackaged, and I'm literally like, you've never spoken to a trans person, you've never read beyond basic biology to understand it, you've never spoken to a medical professional who specializes in treating trans people. So like, why do you think you're an expert on this? Big famous TERF Helen Joyce recently, Australian federal court ruled that she's not an expert at all, and they don't understand why she is speaking about trans issues, because she doesn't even have any qualifications in biology, let alone sex and gender. I think she's like a mathematician or something. And I'm like, why the heck do you think you have the right?
Yeah, none of these people are qualified to talk about it, but it's nice that like someone's actually...
It's nice it's there, solid in writing, not an expert. Well, that's the video.
Well, goodbye.
This has been very long. Goodbye, get out. You've talked too much today, Mark. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, even though we're very far apart.
We are
you
now.
Don't want to be near me.
I mean, our legs were touching earlier.
Yeah, I'm pregnant.
We can...
Yeah.
I can do that.
Well, no, because I'm a gay man, I always have a uterus, so I got the...
Of course. You're who she was talking about.
Absolutely.
How dare.
Yeah.
You made us all look
pregnant
bad.
Gay man.
A pregnant gay cis man.
A pregnant gay cis man, yeah, absolutely.
You could be a pregnant gay trans man.
That's true, yes, that is true. I'm actually Helen Joyce. On her down days, when the wigs come off.
Well, thank you very much for joining on this video.
Thank you, yes.
What did we film for your channel?
We filmed Main Character Syndrome.
Which you'll probably find on Rolly's channel by the time I've posted this.
Yes, because you film way more advanced than I do.
All the links will be down in the description box below if you want to go check out the lovely Rolly if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Think about giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing if you want to, but no pressure. And yeah, I will see you next time.
No, pressure, subscribe.
Much love, bye!